Hello, Frank. Good afternoon, and it is my pleasure to have you with me today. Uh, thank you for agreeing to give me this time for a short conversation, and I'm glad that you're here with me. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Thank you for inviting me to this conversation.
Great. So, Frank, as I understand, you are an executive and team coach, and your mission is to develop effective leaders, right? You help executive teams to work cohesively and create an environment that helps them perform their natural best. But you have, reached this stage after several years of struggle and efforts and focus. So, I just want to hear a little bit about your journey, where you come from, how you are here, and especially the kind of work that you're doing with Toastmasters International, how you evolved into the current role. I'd like to know a little bit about that. So it'll be nice if you can share a little bit about your journey, how you started and how you reached here.
Okay, thank you. So I'm from a country called Zimbabwe, which
Yes.
is one of the Southern African countries. And we're very prominent because we're the last country in terms of the alphabet. So we stand out in that way.
Oh, yes.
So
yes.
that's how we get to know
I've,
the country.
I've heard about Zimbabwe, in the 1983 World Cup, Cricket World Cup, Zimbabwe beat Australia in a match. And that's when I first heard about Zimbabwe. It became famous there. And, I think that's around the time Zimbabwe was given that name. Before that, I think it was called something else. And, since then, of course, in the cricketing world, Zimbabwe has been going through a lot of ups and downs. And I've kind of heard. And then also, I think the economy went for a toss in between, and the currency was like, out of the radar for a lot of people. So I've heard about Zimbabwe, of course. It's a famous country.
Beautiful. Yes, we are giant killers. We're giant killers. So growing up in Zimbabwe, all I really ever wanted to be was to be a chartered accountant. And so soon after high school, yes. And so soon after high school, I actually got a job at Ernst & Young to actually start my training contract there.
Wow, Ernst & Young.
Yes, Ernst & Young. Yes. Then I discovered just before we could get started that they could no longer take all of us in because they had a bit of some budget issues, due to the economy and everything. And that's when I discovered that I'd actually scored the highest in the first interview, which was the verbal interview, but not so well psychometric evaluation, those evaluations they do for us to check whether you're really a right fit for the profession. Now, I think for someone who had spent his entire life wanting to be a chartered accountant, that was a bit of a setback. And whilst Ernst & Young offered me an opportunity to work in their tax advisory department and maybe work my way back to assurance, where I could then become a chartered accountant in audit, I don't know. I actually don't know the reason why I didn't take that offer, but I just decided, you know what, I'll take a leave from that and find another opportunity forward. And so that's when, during that time, that's when I then decided, you know what, I need something else to do whilst I'm doing my accounting degree. And then I got a part-time job in an investor relations firm, which really great learning opportunity for me.
Okay.
And then, because I still felt the capacity in me, that's when I decided to join Toastmasters. Okay. Now, I think the story with Toastmasters, which is probably what you asked, is where there are a few significant stories in there. And I think the first one is, at the time I joined Toastmasters, I actually used to be in high school a member of Interact, which is a part of Rotaract. So during that time, I actually I had a bit of a choice to make between Toastmasters, Rotary, and also another organization called Junior Chamber International. And with Junior Chamber International, JCI, I actually had a bit of some strong ties with a few friends there, and I could have easily landed there. But because at that time, I wanted to be a world champion of public speaking, I thought, okay, focus a little bit on Toastmasters before I didn't know that I would never ever get the opportunity to actually compete. But out of that experience, there's a number of things that came up out of it. The first one is after missing out on the speech contest the first time, I discovered that I thought, let me do a public speaking course, which unexpectedly ended with me getting a speech coaching certification, which is pretty much what kickstarted my coaching career, not with the actual paper, but a joke with a friend about that paper led to me actually, helping him with his MBA dissertation project. And after that, I started working with his friends and I got into executive speech coaching up to where I am today as an executive and team coach. But the second thing, I come from a country that's been ravaged by poor leadership. And yet I was very fortunate to go to a school where I got to experience great leadership. And so one of the things that I then discovered when I went into the working environment is that the sense of standards amongst some of us who are, millennials and growing up in this day and age, is that our sense of standard are skewed. And even sometimes our belief in processes and protocols and standards is quite skewed. And that's when I decided to make leadership development my business. And that's why I'm still involved today in Toastmasters, because I believe Toastmasters can be a key player in leadership development. And in my leadership coaching career, I also believe that leaders in workplaces have the opportunity to create happy workers, and happy workers have the potential of creating happy communities out there. And so that's really why I do the job that I do, and I really love it.
Wonderful, wonderful, great. So tell me, you somewhere in between, you said you moved from Zimbabwe to South Africa, which is where you're based now, right? Johannesburg. So how did that move happen? And, what are the kind of things that happened, brought you to the stage? How did you build this practice? How did you reach here? Some of your learnings on the way, maybe you'd want to share.
Well, technically, the move to South Africa is actually happening at the moment. I've always had quite a lot of work in South Africa and other parts of Southern Africa, also partly due to my involvement in Toastmasters in Southern Africa. I was in the senior leadership team, the executive team, for quite a number of years. So that allowed me to come to South Africa quite a lot. But beyond that, I think the aspect of moving here came up when I discovered that, I was losing a lot of my clientele due to the brain drain in Zimbabwe. And so during lockdown, I happened to be in South Africa and locked down in South Africa. And that's when I decided to rethink my business. And I discovered that there were many bad practices that I was doing in my business. And I was not even eating my own dog food and following my own advice. And in reviewing that, I then decided that, it's high time I really took seriously the idea of building my business be in one country and actually expand it to multiple countries. And I thought Johannesburg, South Africa would be a great start. There are quite some challenges. I think fitting in culturally wasn't the biggest challenge, but trying to settle here and get your business paperwork going isn't quite the easiest or accessible for my type of business. But you know what, as they say, we keep exploring and seeing where the roads lead.
Yes, I get you. So you tell me, if there was somebody else, you in your place, or say if you had to look back and change something about your journey, something that you could have done differently, something where you think if you've given a chance, you would like to do something else, choose something else. Is there anything like that in your background, in your experience?
Well, firstly, I'm actually quite glad that my life didn't work out the way I wanted it to work out, because like I said to you earlier, all I ever wanted to be was a chartered accountant. And I can imagine myself being a trainee and an accountant, maybe a chartered accountant already now, busy interacting with numbers. And many people who know me will tell you I'm still very big on numbers. In fact, they would pretty much think that I'm a pure accountant. However, I discovered that what I really enjoy is working with people. And I think from there lies the lesson. I think I'm someone who's very strong-willed. So when I set my mind to something, I really follow it. And sometimes I'm actually quite, stubborn in following that course. And it has its advantages. But if for me, if my life had not if my life had not been rudely interrupted and me not being able to complete my journey, I don't think I would have found something that I truly enjoy, which is speaking to people every day and helping people achieve the best that they can out of this world. So I think that's the first thing. I would change that strong will about myself. But the other thing that I think I would change is how I approached business. So initially, because my business started off with a joke with a friend, and we even joked to say, let's use that paper of yours, but it was never really about the certification. And I started helping him develop his MBA dissertation presentation. And after that, he invited friends. And at the end of that, the friends said, you know what? Why don't you come and help us write our speeches in our professional lives as executives? And during that course, I got a myriad of customers from the time I was an executive speech coach to the time I became a business coach, and then to the time I transitioned into leadership coaching. And I think the first thing that I would have done during that journey slightly differently is that at some point, whilst it was good to experience this diversity of people, was to quickly settle on a niche where I could say, you know what, this is what I want to focus on. Why? Because it would have made it easier with my marketing now, especially now during this transition, because I was so used to getting a lot of referral customers, and now I have to do a bit of some marketing. And so that exercise, I think, would have made a difference. And then the second one is that the last lesson, but which is the second in the context of this story, is that I would not have gone it alone. I think I always took, frankly speaking, my business as my baby. And I wasn't really willing to work with other people. Yes, I had a few associates that would come in and help me with certain projects, but frankly speaking was Frank, and Frank was frankly speaking. And I think right now there are some limitations to that, because when I'm not there, the business isn't happening, and the business somewhat holds you hostage. And so if there were things I could do differently, number one was to have a fixed vision, but a flexible strategy. Number two, I would actually try and niche down and have a specific audience that I help achieve a particular goal. And that can evolve over time, that's fine. But that focus or that niche would be important. And lastly, I would make sure that as I go about in my journey, I go it with others. And because that's how you grow as a business, and that's how you've got the freedom to enjoy a lot of the work that you do.
Yeah, Frank, thanks a lot. That is so insightful. And what I like about your business, one of the key things that catches the eye is that your name is Frank and your business is called Frankly Speaking, right? So there's a direct correlation. And I find that very interesting, amusing, and eye-catching. So how did you get to give that name to your business? How did that name come about?
Well, quite interestingly, I was telling you, I joined Toastmasters to compete in the World Championships of Public Speaking. And I'm quite embarrassed to say that I have never gotten to actually compete even in the first round of contests within Toastmasters, because I got caught up in something. But in 1 year, in a number of years now, but in the 1 year, I had the privilege to coach a very good friend of mine. His name is Lloyd, to win the Southern African Championships of Public Speaking. And he had to now go to the international rounds of the contest. And so at that time, he was about to leave for the semifinals of the World Championships of Public Speaking in Kuala Lumpur. It was around 11 p.m. and he dropped me. And we were quite distraught because I was supposed to join him in Kuala Lumpur, but a last-minute engagement stopped me from going. And so in him expressing himself to me and trying to thank me in his unique way, he said, you know what, frankly speaking, no one is as frank as Frank. You
Oh,
know, about my direct style in terms of interacting with people and everything. And that's when
yeah.
he said, hang on a moment. I think you need to change the name of your business and call it Frankly Speaking. And
Oh,
so Frankly Speaking has signified quite a lot. From the time we did speech coaching, it had a relevance to that. And I
yeah.
remember now, especially in the business coaching and the leadership coaching, Frankly Speaking is referred to those candid conversations, coaching conversations, caring conversations that we need to have to show each other some tough love that
Yes.
actually allows us to progress. And so for me, that's been really the platform that I've used. At some point, I even did event management, and my job was to create deep, meaningful conversation. And so, Frankly Speaking, was a symbol of making sure that we actually not have tea parties, but we have real life conversations that are affecting people and that can make a difference. So I'm forever grateful to Lloyd for
Okay.
naming the business, Frankly Speaking.
Great, great. Now that you have, kind of grown your business from a speaking, focused on speaking to executive coaching, leadership coaching, and business coaching, I want to understand
Mhm.
what kind of challenges do you think today's businesses and leaders face, especially in the light of the last 2 years that have seen this whole world come to a bit of a standstill and affected by the pandemic in various ways. So what kind of challenges you think today's leaders are facing, and what kind of challenges you come across in your coaching experiences?
Okay, so I remember in 2017 when I used to do a lot of business strategy. And I remember we transitioned from doing 10-year strategies to 5-year strategies to 3-year strategies in almost
Okay.
18 months.
Wow.
In
Okay.
18 months, right? And that is, I mean, now you look at the pandemic and the 2020 is being seen as a decade of big change. And I think the
Yeah.
biggest challenge that we have now is, unlike in the past where things you could almost predict the next 10 years, you could
Yes.
have a leader that can stay in there for about 10 years and lead the vision for the company for the next 10 years. But
Yes.
right now, just predicting what will happen in the next 12 months is becoming more and more complex. And
Yes.
so,
Yes.
what this calls for is a need for what is called adaptive leadership,
Yeah.
where anyone in the team should be prepared to take up leadership and make sure that everything works. And something that ties into a lot of the work that I do nowadays, especially in terms of having those frank conversations, is it's
Yeah.
important now in an environment like that where you actually have a leader that's willing to create a safe space that allows the ideas from the team to flourish, because we need everyone to bring their brains on board and to
Yeah.
bring themselves on board to try and discover what's coming up in the future and to bring in their diversity of ideas in
Yeah.
shaping the future in that industry. But at the same time, you also need a team that's able to speak up
Okay.
and be able to express themselves quite clearly.
Yes. Yes.
Someone said this, and it really stuck with me that people are all many employees are worried about doing the next thing right instead of the next right thing, and that's because
Ah.
of that fear. So I think a lot of leaders right now have that challenge of trying to get their team on board, because gone are the days where one person could lead the team for the next
Yes.
10 years with the predictability that's happening. You need the
Correct.
team, you need to understand how they work, their preferences, their personalities. You also need to find out what are some of their security issues so that you're able to create a safe environment that allows the entire team to come on board so
Yeah.
that they're able to sustain their business going forward. And I think that's one of the major challenges that I see in business right now.
Okay, okay, that's interesting. And in fact, and as the world changes, we have to, while things may open up, the pandemic may be over, we still have to be prepared for these things mentally. And it has given us a little bit of a new way of working. What changes do you think, long-lasting changes, do you think this pandemic is bringing out to the world? Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, so personally, I think that whilst there are some changes that the pandemic has brought, I actually believe that these are things we've known for years, but just ignored.
Okay.
And so what the pandemic has done is it pretty much did, what happened to me during my accounting times, where I was told, well, you don't have a job. Now you need to do something. And so we're now being forced to pay attention to the things that matter, whether it's diversity and equity situation, whether it's, taking care of the needs of our team members or anything of that sort. And so I think what the pandemic has simply done is accelerated some of the things that we know. And we know some of this because a lot of the solutions to surviving the pandemic are actually being referenced from books in the 1980s. That's where we're actually drawing some of that wisdom from. And so I think the pandemic itself has actually helped that. But I think also something that I would also like to say, and I think is a bit of an extension of a challenge that I think leaders have during this time, and something that we are learning is that in as much as the only constant in life is change, the thing is that can never replace the fact that change is still very stressful. And so whilst we execute that change, let's not, just brush past the stress management aspect. The amount of change we're experiencing is probably going to be very stressful for the people in the next decade, and sometimes it might appear to be too much. And so making sure that we manage that stress management and the change management process, I think, is going to be one of the key learnings that we are, getting from the pandemic and seeing how to manage. And that's why we now see that most companies now, to succeed, are going to be seen as those companies that focus on their people, number one, and then number two, on purpose, planet, and then profit.
4Ps.
Those 4Ps. Yes.
Okay.
So I think that's something
people,
that
purpose, planet, and
profit.
Okay. People, purpose, planet, and profit. The 4Ps, the new 4Ps of strategy and business success. Great. So Frank, we're coming to the end of the time that I have with you. So just before I let you go, I want to know, how do you deal with your personal stress? You've seen a lot of ups and downs in your career, in your business. You've come through it as a winner, and of course the environment has been stressful. A lot of other things have been difficult to manage, I'm sure. How do you personally deal with stress? What are the things that you like to do in your downtime?
So I think something that's really marked my career a lot is service. And that's why you find me being part of organizations like Toastmasters. There's a quote that stuck with me. It's actually by an Indian called Tagore. He has a quote that goes, Tagore. He has a first name that I'm still to fully learn to pronounce.
Rabindranath Tagore. He's called Rabindranath Tagore. He's a Nobel laureate. Yeah, correct. Go ahead.
Yes. That's exactly him. Yes. He says, I used to dream that life was joy.
Yeah.
I woke up and discovered that life was service. I acted, behold, service was joy. And for me, I find that I've been in quite a number of privileged positions in the past, been honored, given red carpets, limousines, and this. But I find my happiness in anything when I roll my sleeves and I actually get to serve people. That's something that I think has been quite pivotal in managing my own stress. Now, don't get me wrong, I actually get frustrated. I get stuck. I get, all the normal human things that one can expect. But, when you get lost in the service of others, you're always going to be able to find your joy. And I think for me, that's kind of the beautiful gift that I got from God that's led me to overcome some of the most stressful in times, losing myself in the service of others. And I think that's something that's really kept me sane, in the trying times during my life.
Wow, how beautiful is that? I really like that. And the fact that you are inspired by Tagore is a moment of pride for me as an Indian. So, thank you very much for sharing that. Before we close, is there any closing thoughts, any mantra or any success mantra or anything else, your motto of life that you'd like to share? And then, I'll just close this interview and let you go.
Well, I suppose it's in, maybe the 4 Ps that we were talking about. And this is a challenge for, anyone that wants to go into leadership. I always say that when I look at leaders, I look for leaders with vision. That's the first filter I would put in. Because as a leader, if you say you want to raise your hand to meet people, there's got to be somewhere you want to take them. And so whether that vision is yours originally or adopted, that doesn't matter to me. But for as long as you've got vision, that's important. And that's the same with your own life. I think it's important to have that vision. But the second filter that I put in is, as a leader, leadership, there's a quote, a phrase that changed the way I look at leadership. You lead you lead people and you manage things. And so leadership is all about people. And so for you to even be a leader, the second thing is you have to have an authentic interest in people and their challenges. And when you do have that, then the last filter for now at basic leadership level would be you then need to have the courage to do what needs to be done to avert those challenges, because it's no use knowing people's challenges. When you lack the courage to do something about it, we still have the challenges that we have in this day and age. And so whether you're an individual, it's important that you adopt a cause. What do you stand for in this world, and live for that, because that's what's going to take you through a wonderful career and allow you to explore different things that you didn't even think you're going to be able to make. But in a company as a leader, for example, what that would do, speaking back to the 4 Ps, is that you will learn to have that authentic interest in your people. You are more worried about the person more than what the person can give you, or at least match it. That's very important. The purpose, many people come in to the organization, and even you as a leader, with personal values. And unless you're aware of what your personal values are, and what the organizational values, and then find the point of contact, you will never really get the best out of yourself or your team unless you find that alignment between your personal and organizational values. And so even now, we also need to do it in a sustainable way. There's nothing like winning after winning and without integrity. And now planet, the sustainability of what we do. It's important that what we do is sustainable and responsible. And that's very important. And of course, a business can't be a business without progress.
Without profit, and absolutely.
I was a perfectionist as an individual, and that really got in the way of progress in my life. And so that progress over perfection, or whatever profit means in your business, which is financial or any other thing, just keep making progress, keep moving, and that's how you get things done. So that's my advice to any leaders, aspiring leaders and individuals in their lives. That's what I would pretty much say.
Thank you very much, Frank. Thank you very much. That was so insightful. I'll just repeat the 4 Ps once again: people, purpose, planet, and profit. And then you said that if you imbibe all this, you will make progress. You will don't chase perfectionism, chase progress. And and of course, every individual needs to have a purpose and a profit motive to move forward, and the alignment of values with the individual and the organization. Some very, very insightful thoughts. Thank you very much, Frank, for giving me this time and speaking with me. I'd love to be in touch with you and maybe have more interactions in the future. In the meanwhile, I'll just let you go now. Have a nice rest of the day and a good week ahead. See you soon again. Bye-bye.
Thank you much for having me. Bye-bye.